Hello everyone, I have another chat and color video for you. These are bonus videos that I'm trying. I'm going to be coloring an image and chatting about a topic, any topic. In this video, I'm coloring this image with a flower. It's a digital stamp and I'm using the watercolor pencils from Lidl that I swatched last week. For the chat portion of this video, I'm continuing the topic from my first chat and color video, which is things I dislike about card making. Sort of. It's not that dramatic. But before I get to that, let's talk about the coloring. As I said, I'm using a digital stamp with a flower. I bought it through Etsy in the shop Dreamflare Studios. This is not sponsored, but I will leave the link to it in the description. I printed the image onto the Canson XL watercolor cardstock, and for the coloring in this video I'm using the size A5, which I will be eventually putting into a frame, and at the end of this video I will also show you the card that I made. I'm coloring with the watercolor pencils from Lidl. I'm not gonna go into too much detail about the coloring here, because in my video where I was swatching the pencils, I also did a test coloring where I gave you more information about the coloring as well. Here I used only one color for the petals and the leaves and then the stamen, the middle of the flower. More specifically, I used purple, green and yellow. The pencils have no names or numbers, so I cannot give you more details. I used a round brush and water, and with that I activated the color. I applied the pencil first and then I spread the color across the petal with the brush. When I was doing the test coloring, I used a water brush, the brush where you have water in the barrel and it has synthetic bristles. And I think a water brush is a bit better than a normal brush, at least with the cheap watercolor pencils. I think the synthetic bristles help a bit to move the color around. But if you don't have a water brush, use a normal brush with water, that works as well. So now let's get to the chat portion of this video. As I said, the topic is what I dislike about card making, or more like things that annoy me, nothing serious. This is a part 2, it is continuing from my previous video. Let's start with something very simple, yet I would say very annoying, and that is losing stamps, randomly losing stamps, or other products, but for me this happens mainly with stamps. This usually happens so suddenly, even if you don't have a huge mess on your desk. Often it's one of those situations where you have the stamp in front of you, you just don't have it on an acrylic block, you turn around to get something, turn back and the stamp is gone. And you just are searching and cannot find it. Most of the times it's somewhere attached on me or on the floor, but sometimes it's just gone. And it doesn't only happen with small stamps. Once I lost a big sentiment stamp. Luckily I found it eventually after a few weeks. It was attached to a bag where I had a scrap paper. I used it after I placed the stamp on my desk and it got stuck to it. At least that's my assumption. What else it could be? I'm still missing one stamp with the letter O from a letter stamp set. At one point I found it and within a few minutes I lost it again. I don't know how, and that was a few years ago already. I don't think there is any hope finding it ever again. Luckily, now I'm using physical stamps less often, so there is not much opportunity to lose them. But let me know what kind of crafty things you lose. The next thing I dislike can be actually applied to other hobbies and crafts as well, but it was extremely annoying when I started card making. And that is not having a dedicated crafting space. A space you can craft and especially leave it messy for a few days or just a few hours. When I started card making, I was crafting in the kitchen, and it was a small kitchen with a table in the middle. And obviously, since it was the kitchen, we cook every day, so I had to remove everything before we started cooking. This was extremely annoying. So when I finally got a desk to craft on, that was the best day. It was a small desk, but it did not matter. The fact that I could stop crafting, leave it as it is, go to bed, and continue crafting the next day was absolutely awesome. So let's move on to another topic. And this one I actually dislike. I disliked it more when I started card making because it was really overwhelming. And that is the constant monthly releases. It's a bit too much. Someone I follow, not sure who, compared it to fast fashion. And I have to agree. And then with every release come the YouTubers and bloggers and the blog hubs. I think the blog hubs are the worst. Because they want you to go to every person in that blog hub chain. I actually did that only once. I didn't care about the product, I just wanted to see. I think there were about 20 people in that blog hub, each showing you a card design with the same stamp set, or I think it was a kit or something similar, not same as a stamp. I don't know about you, but I like to put my own spin on the card. And after seeing 20 crafters showcasing more than one card idea each for that specific stamp set, my creativity was completely gone. I'm sure there are people who are lured to buy products this way, but for me, this is a shopping repellent. Let me know in the comments if this works for you or not. Actually, there was one point I was so overwhelmed because I followed way too many YouTubers. I was actually watching more people to craft than I was crafting myself. Plus, they were using products I could not get in Europe. I unsubscribed from most of them because I felt my creativity was suffering. I was really stuck, and these days I only follow a handful of YouTubers. I love the card making community, but it was a little bit too much at that time. And the last thing I dislike about card making that pops into my mind is shopping. More specifically, online shopping. Because you rely on the post office to do their job. And the postage is expensive, especially if I shop abroad, which if I want to have the good stuff, I have to do that. Plus, the products are so expensive, and I'm only talking about stamps. My cutoff point for stamps is at €15, $15, which is possible only with very few brands. And that's why these days I hardly ever shop for card making products. But when I do shop, I sort out the products by price, low to high, and see what they have. And often I find a really good stuff. I'm almost finished coloring, so I will stop the chat part here. When I was coloring, I actually forgot to color the stamen. I did that later off camera. For that, I used yellow color. Let me show you the card I made. This is an A6 card. I colored it the same way. Here I also added splatter, and I also painted the edges of the panel. The sentiment I heat embossed and adhered using a foam tape, and the whole panel I adhered on top of a white card base using a liquid glue. If you have any things about card making that annoy you or you would like to add to what I mentioned in this video, share that in the comments. The point of these videos is to have a conversation. I have 3 videos that you can watch next. The part 1 of my dislikes, the video where I switched the Lidl watercolor pencils, and my favorite things about card making. Don't forget to like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it, and I will see you in my next video very soon.